The measure of a country is how it values its vulnerable. And this can be ascertained, in my view, by how we treat the people who look after the most vulnerable. So older people in nursing homes have been treated abysmally during the lockdown. They've been treated as an afterthought. When decisions were made, they had disastrous consequences for those. As a result, Ireland has one of the highest rates of nursing home deaths in the world, and yet today there is absolutely no full commitment from this new government that there will be a full public investigation. Today, pubs and restaurants are open for business, but community facilities for people with disabilities are not open. Because of the lack of direction on social distancing, many people with disabilities have been at home since March, are unlikely to be able to use services until at least the end of August. And the childcare sector, which is charged for the development and care of the next generation of Irish people, is in chaos as we speak. This sector, as we know, has been under phenomenal pressure over the last number of years, with tens of thousands of people having to take to the streets. However, shockingly, I have information received from the sector itself that states that 180 providers have closed since the start of the pandemic. As many as 10% of childcare providers have shut down due to the lack of support. And these closures, Tánaiste, are accelerating. In the last week alone, it's been reported that 55 childcare providers have closed. My office spoke to providers twice on the phone yesterday, and between those two phone calls, another 3 providers had closed. And I've been told this morning that 7 childcare providers in Dublin have closed in the last 24 hours. The childcare sector is dying on its feet, Tánaiste, and yet the government is sitting on its hands. Now, I spoke to the Federation of Childcare Providers, and they're not just charging the Department of Children with willful neglect of the sector. They are accusing the Department of Children of gross mistreatment of childcare providers. The Federation of Childcare Providers informed me that they've actually set up a mental health team with 2 doctors to deal with the level of trauma and upset that has been caused to the members by the Department and the Minister. So what I'm simply asking the Tánaiste to do here today is to intervene urgently with regards to childcare services. Make sure that they have the necessary supports. Make sure that we don't see the closure of these services further in the next coming weeks. And make sure that there is a service for parents in the second half of this year. Good morning.
Thank you. Tánaiste.
Thanks, Deputy. Just in relation to your earlier remarks, I think we all need to be very careful and we all need to be very responsible in how we use international comparative data when it comes to COVID. And we all need to take what we see on websites like Worldometer for what they are, which is not a like-for-like comparison of country by country. Every country is at a different stage in this pandemic. Things look very different in Israel and Portugal today than they did a few months ago, and the same will apply to other parts of the world as well. Countries that thought they'd eliminated the virus, like New Zealand, now have new cases every single day, and of course countries count differently. One thing we always did in Ireland was to count cases in care homes from day one. Other countries didn't do that. We counted suspected cases even when there wasn't a laboratory test confirming that the patient had COVID. Other countries didn't do that. And we didn't discount people who had underlying conditions like other countries did. So if somebody had stage 4 cancer, was in a nursing home and was suspected of having COVID but didn't test positive for it, we counted that. Other countries wouldn't have. So I think you need to be responsible in the way you use language and data like that, because it's not responsible to misuse it. In relation to the issue of childcare, I think we're all aware that childcare facilities often close in the summer period in July and August, so this is different to September, October. We do want to make sure that the sector is fully up and running for September, October in order to meet demand. Data is being collected on reopenings, and that will be available from Tuesday the 7th of July. With a weekly update until early September. In a normal year, roughly 40% of childcare providers operate over the summer. 60% of the existing services have indicated that they will be reopening by September, and this portion may rise. The government has provided a reopening package of 75 million. That's been made available through the Department of Children and Youth Affairs, now the Department of Children, Disability and Equality. and other government supports for the sector running through June, July and August. Since reopening, 1,000 services have registered 11,876 children on the DCYA funded programmes, and registrations remain open up till the end of the programme year. There have been 717 applications for a reopening support payment, and that's of an approximate value of 3 million. An additional about 7 million in capital grants have been applied for.
Peadar Tóibín.
The number of deaths in the nursing homes in this country is absolutely shocking, and it's wrong. And I'm always amazed when the government is confronted with the figures that their answer is, we count those deaths better than any other country. Counting the deaths is not something to be proud of. Preventing them was the important issue there. The other issue that you mentioned, these closures in the childcare sector are complete closures. They're full-time closures. The grants that have been provided add up to about 2,500 for reopening. But these childcare providers are, they're dealing with overheads like electricity, insurance, rents. They're dealing with wages. They have less children coming in. They have less hours coming in. And most of the sole traders that are operating in this sector are working 70 hours a week under an avalanche of administration, and yet they're not getting income at all. Their debts are building up at a rate never seen before, and no level of future trading is going to get them out of this debt level. This is a crisis not like any other summer. It needs a response that is different. We had the previous Minister for Children who stated that there will be 750 million euros given to this sector. That money has not materialised to that sector. Key stakeholders have been locked out of decision-making with the departments. There needs to be a complete injection, a lifeline into the childcare sector now to protect it.
Thank you, Deputy. Tánaiste to conclude.
Thanks very much, Deputy. I was involved in the country's response to COVID from day one. I was at all the meetings where the big decisions were made, and I can assure everyone in this House that our overriding concern always was to reduce the number of people who got infected and to reduce and minimise the number of deaths in all settings, community, care homes and in hospitals. And we know now from the data produced by HICWA on excess deaths that we overestimated significantly the number of deaths in Ireland compared to when you use the excess debt measure. And the reason why we counted the way we did was we thought it was the right thing to do in terms of saving lives to overcount, because we were then contact tracing suspected cases, not just confirmed cases, whereas other countries didn't do that. But the excess debt figures produced by HICWA tell a lot. The fact that we may be one of the few countries significantly revising down the number of deaths during that period. For some people, they saw it as some sort of competition as to where they were in a league table. And there's really hateful, nasty stuff from people who thought that it was some sort of competition between countries. And when they saw Ireland high up in a league table, they almost took a perverse pleasure in that, because it was an opportunity to have a go at the government or Tony Hoolan or whatever. And I just deplore that kind of attitude and those kind of people, I must say, because they did nothing at all to help us when it came to fighting COVID.
Thank you, Tánaiste.